All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The Washington Commanders released quarterback Carson Wentz today in a move that will save this franchise more than $26 million against the salary cap. Now, the Commanders were the third NFL team for Wentz in as many seasons as each stop along the way saw him exit with a whimper. You think back to Wentz's time with the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that initially drafted him, and falling out of grace there after such a promising start to his career back in 2016 and 2017, being traded to the Indianapolis Colts prior to the 2021 season. The Colts were in playoff contention, but they failed down the stretch, and they failed due to the inability of Carson Wentz to get it done when the chips were pushed to the middle of the table. Being injured this past season with the Washington Commanders, and then also being benched and being replaced by Tyler Heineke. And if you watch Wentz play this past season in Washington, you knew that he was on borrowed time there. Ron Rivera, the Commanders head coach, never really fully committed to Wentz. And when it's all said and done, he's looking for another NFL home heading into next season. Now, through 7 NFL seasons, Wentz's regular season record is 46, 45, and 1, but he's only 28, 34, and 1 since being injured back in 2017. And if you go back and watch Carson Wentz play that season, he finished third in the MVP voting, but he was playing like an MVP for the Philadelphia Eagles. Had that knee injury late in the season against the Rams. Nick Foles stepped in and helped the Eagles win their first and only Super Bowl championship. You think about Wentz trying to come back in 2018. He still wasn't there. Then in 2019, he looked the part somewhat again as he helped the Eagles win a bad NFC East. And then in his first playoff game, he got injured early on, and then the Eagles had to rely on Josh McCown, and that didn't work out as they fell to the Seattle Seahawks. But nonetheless, ever since then, Wentz has not been the same. It was a bad 2020 for him in Philadelphia with the Eagles, which included seeing him lead the league with 15 interceptions. I talked about the situation with Indianapolis, and honestly, that was tailor made for him due to the fact that the Colts were a strong running team with Jonathan Taylor. Frank Reich was a head coach. He was his offensive coordinator in Philly when he was drafted, and it just never came together. Reich, that ultimately led to Frank Reich getting fired this past season. I know he tried to go to the well once again with Matt Ryan. Obviously, that didn't work out, but nonetheless, the wheels were set in motion with the Carson Wentz fiasco. Then this past season in Washington, it just did not work out. So now, if you're Carson Wentz, you're 30 years of age, and of course, people are going to ask, does he have a future in the NFL? I still think that he does, just not as a starting quarterback. I think Wentz can go someplace and be a backup, be a serviceable backup quarterback, maybe take a year or two as a backup to recharge his batteries, recharge his brain, and just get refreshed, if you will, and just go out there and come back again, maybe in a year or two, or try this thing again. He just has not been right, whether it's physically, mentally, whatever. Carson Wentz has just not been right in the last couple of years. The arm ability is still there. He has to be more accurate. He has to make better decisions as a quarterback. But nonetheless, I still think that there is potential there. And I do believe, with that said, there's going to be some teams, not just one team. I do believe that there will be some teams in free agency that will take a long, hard look at Wentz. Maybe not as a starter, but definitely as a backup. He's going to be on somebody's roster come training camp time, and he's not going to be there as a third string guy. He's not going to be there as a roster guy. I think he's going to be there as a guy that is going to get a legitimate opportunity to make somebody's team heading out of training camp. But just unfortunately for him, It didn't finish well in Philly. It did not finish well in Indy. And then, of course, it carried over to Washington. So maybe a slight reset, if you will. Taking some time as a backup will help Carson Wentz ultimately, potentially rekindle what we saw several years ago. But nonetheless, we saw the writing on the wall for this. Nobody, even Carson Wentz, should be surprised that he was released by the Commanders today. They're going in a different direction. Of course, you have a head coach and Ron Rivera that's probably going to head into next season looking to try to get this team to the postseason to potentially save his job. He can't sit back and do that while relying on Carson Wentz to try to figure it out. It ain't going to work. So both parties had to go in a different direction. We know what Commanders are more than likely going to do at quarterback. Now let's see which team that will take a chance on Carson Wentz heading into next season. Even as a backup, I still do believe he has an NFL future ahead of him. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.